Where I'd like to start today, if you don't mind, is talk a little bit about feedback. I find that one of the challenges that leaders have is around having those difficult conversations and providing feedback to people. And often I find that leaders, what they'll do is they'll hesitate to provide the most valuable feedback. They're hesitant to ask the most valued question because maybe that person won't take it the right way. Maybe they'll be offended in the process or what have you. And I find that from a leadership perspective, and certainly from a company perspective, I think that we'll be amazed at how much more successful we can be when we learn how to talk with each other rather than talk about each other. So, one of the things about feedback, and I guess my favorite feedback story actually goes back a number of years ago. I had the privilege when I was younger to take my pilot's license, to actually learn how to fly. And I was flying out of a little private runway strip out of Lantana, which is just south of West Palm Beach. And I can remember the conversation that I had with my flight instructor. And he says, well, Rick, he says, I won't work with you until I get to know you a little bit. So we're going to spend some time. We're going to go for a ride in a plane. We're going to fly for a while, and we're going to talk with each other. And we're going to get to know each other. So we literally spent about an hour together, and he was telling me a little bit about his style, and he was asking me questions about who I am and why I wanted to fly and where I got my passion from. Anyway, at the end of it all, we ended up landing, and I had a great time with him. I just thought that he's the guy I wanted to teach me how to fly. And he says, Rick, before we go any further, he says, I got a couple of questions for you. And I said, yeah, okay. What do you want, George? He says, Rick, are you okay with feedback? And I said, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm okay with feedback. And he says, no. He says, are you okay with feedback for improvement? Because some people aren't really good at getting feedback for improvement. I said, George, absolutely. I'll be open to feedback, and obviously I want to be the best. And obviously if you see that I'm doing something that I could actually do better, of course I want you to give me feedback. He says, okay. He says, I just want you to know that about 6 or 10 hours into the process, I need to sign off on your logbook that says that you're okay to solo. And he says, what that means is that I'm putting my name in your logbook, that you're able to take this plane up in the air without me. So I need to make sure that you actually are doing it well. So he says, sometimes people say, I'm going to give you some feedback, don't take it personal. He says, when I give you feedback, I want you to take it personal, because it's actually coming from the heart. And to me, that was an important message to me. It kind of shifted that paradigm around what feedback really does. Feedback is designed to help somebody that you care for. And from a leadership perspective, you care for your team. So why do you value feedback? Because you want them to get better. So I like the paradigm shift of feedback's a gift. Feedback helps people to actually get to their greatness or to their very best. And I actually do believe that feedback is personal, and it should be personal. Sometimes people hesitate about feedback and how to give feedback. So I got a couple of simple rules that sort of help me out. The first thing that I often think about if I'm giving somebody feedback that I'm maybe not really comfortable with. Maybe it's somebody that I'm not sure how they're going to take the feedback. So if I'm not comfortable with it, I just tell them, I say, hey, you know what, John, I've got some feedback for you, and listen, by the way, I'm not really comfortable doing what I'm doing, so I hope you hold me safe through this process. And I just find that when you're vulnerable like that and you just put it out there that this is something that's a little uncomfortable for you, I often find that what happens is the defensiveness drops down. I think the other thing I find is that when you're about to give somebody feedback, they start to question your intent. They wonder why you're doing it. What's your motivation, and is there a hidden agenda? So what I'll often do is I'll often start with the intent. Rather than giving them the feedback straight on, I'll tell them the intent first. I'll say, hey, listen, I think it's really important for you to understand why I want to give you this feedback. Because I think you're an amazing individual, and I love working with you as a team member. And I'm seeing you do something, and I'm not sure that you're completely aware of maybe the negative impact that behavior is having on you or on your team or on the success of the company. So I want you to know the reason why I'm giving you the feedback is because I actually respect you, and I actually like working for you. And then, once they understand the intent, it makes it a whole lot easier. I think the sort of the final rule that I have is that as long as feedback's coming from the heart, and it's designed to support or to help somebody, it will go a long way to providing that support. So those are sort of my rules of feedback. But number one, I truly believe that feedback is a gift, that we should take feedback personal, and that we should not avoid providing that feedback, because I think the alternative, which is usually talking about people rather than talking to people, is actually not really good for business.